But I think relative to theory, he's actually even more capped than he is on the turn.
9-6 off usually
or
in like 6 max or
with a river check.
player pools.
So
Or 4-player
in my
tables. It's
estimation,
a horrible hand, but in
able
heads
to
up,
bet my hand
mean,
like it's the nuts.
it's a hand that you can raise with.
Okay. What do I want to do? 10-5 here. Just, I think this is just up here.
Okay, we got the double-ended straight draw.
Okay.
That offers us really good equity. Also, this queen is really, really good for our range. I think.
On these boards.
Although,
no backdoors.
Is it really?
Maybe some backdoor straights.
It's weird because only the queen
very low equity
is good for the defender's ranges of the aggressive range, whereas
I would say
the
our
ace,
hand
king,
maybe
jack
has
are
like
all good for the
less than
aggressive
20% equity.
Pre-flop aggressor. But I like the fact that we have an open-ended straight draw, so I'm going to
okay.
bet
So face 60% pot bet. Pretty straightforward. On to the next hand. Okay, 5-4 off. 5-4 off.
Would love to play that hand. Why do you fold that one?
6-5 off. This is a mix.
Yeah, which
defend or fold.
I'm playing very, very wide. I know.
I think with no rake, I can defend it.
Oh, poor hand.
Oh,
and we hit a.
Okay, we hit flop 9-9 queen. Just gonna be.
And the queen is good for our range. So usually, a lot of times here we would be betting. I think, although the paired board and the fact that it's two-tone changes everything. But I still think it's a bet. 60% correct. He's kind of overfolding. Why does he fold every time I have an ace? Like he knows I have an ace. Okay, I just fold this one.
Jack 5, it's a mixed open. I think I can open. I think I can also fold. Just fold this time.
That 9-9 queen one I have to review. I'm not sure what to do there. Yeah. So when I bet 60%
mix a little bit of
pot on the flop, he's kind of over betting.
In blind versus blind six max,
overfolding.
Pretty sure I mix probably 20, 30, maybe 40%
so should I bet
bet in here.
Smaller?
And heads up, I think my 3 bets are going to be more of my suited connectors and less of the high-low.
Yeah, I think I should
the suited high-low
hands on the flop. So I'm gonna start betting like
a flop check. I think
1 in a pot of 2.5 is like 40% of pot. So he checks here. It's a pretty dry board. We do have a backdoor flush draw, but we're just gonna check this one. We don't want to lead out.
Checks back. Okay,
we have a
very
gutter.
Good for us.
We missed our backdoor.
Gives us top pair,
but we do have a gutter.
So we have to check.
It doesn't really help that much, but
I guess
it's a pretty
we don't.
Pretty straightforward hand to play. Or a straightforward action to play.
No, I think I do. I think I need to check this back. In theory, sometimes. Okay, river's an ace.
Okay, the ace helps our hand like
should severely. Never be betting. I think turn is mostly over better check. And then there, I think my hand is a little bit too weak to over bet, so mostly check.
But do we need to bet here? What is he calling with? This is another one of those spots. Like, I don't know what bet size he is, and I don't even know.
Pretty sure this is going to be a snap. Questions asked.
Oh, okay. He did have a pair of tens.
Okay, so here he's bluffing his queen high. Here I was in the big blind and you were in the small blind. Yes. The important thing to keep in mind with that bet check bet is that as the out of position player, you do have to have some slow plays there. You have to be able to check some on that board, you have to be able to check some like two pairs, for instance, right? And let your opponent try to stab at the river. Otherwise, if you bet all the time there, you know, they can kind of overfold and your checks are going to get attacked by them. Like you cannot, it doesn't really make sense to always just bet your, you know, super strong value on that river, because like I said, they're actually forced to overfold when you bet.
Oh,
Relative to minimum defense frequency. Here we can let's pull that board back up. So let's say you bet like let's say you bet 50% pot. Like what would MDF be there? Just do the calculation real quick.
25. No, 33.
No, 33.
Yeah.
33. Yeah, so you'll see like what's gonna happen here is they actually have to overfold against this. So let's say you had actually let out for like 50% pot, right? Like you would expect fold to only be 33. Well, here it's actually 36, right? Let's say you had bet full pot. What's MDF against that?
50%.
Right. Guess what the fold is going to be? Higher than 50. And that's because they weakly polarized the range, right? Now their range is not so robust to defend against this kind of a bet. So you just garner the extra fold equity. Okay, let's go to this new board. I'm going to try to keep my thoughts more brief. Okay, 359. I'm dealt 10, 2 of spades in the big blind. So you raise, I call. I think is this a 3-bet some percentage of the time? No, it's okay. It's pure call. Good to know. Okay, so here I think this is a range check, and yeah, it is. Your thoughts on this board?
Yeah, it's a pretty dry rainbow board, so I thought, yeah, didn't really favor my range. I had Queen 8 suited, Queen 8 of hearts, so I did have a backdoor flush draw, but I just checked because yeah, it's a pretty dry board.
Yeah, should be okay for your range actually, but yeah, you do see like, you know, like a decent amount of checking here.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure Queen 8 suited actually wants to bet a fair bit,
Oh.
Although I guess maybe not, because it's saying this is showdown value. But maybe this isn't like Queen 10. Okay, Queen 9 is obviously value. Okay, so that's interesting. Yeah. So okay, flop goes check check. Turn, I turn top pair. And I know that this node is typically going to be an overbet or check node. And I just figured 10-2, you know, I flop top pair or I turn top pair. I think I can use some medium sizings here, like 75%. There are some hands that use 75%. And the reason is if I have a hand exactly like 10-2, it benefits from getting some fold equity from like, you know, bigger overcards, as well as some value from, you know, cards that, you know, now have some sort of straight draw with related to the 10 and the 9. Right. So my guess is I actually bet this like 80% of the time, but I opted for check here. So what does it want to do? Okay, so it actually like is almost up here. So my check was pretty much, generally speaking, a mistake. All these are close, but you know, like it really likes to push my equity here. And wow, this is actually the type of turn that either gets small or bet small, bet medium, or checked, and not a lot of overbet. Very interesting to see. I had kind of initially thought this is overbet or check node. So I check. What are your thoughts on on betting this turn, if at all? Like action on this.
I
turn?
thought the 10 actually helped me because, well, I now have a gut shot, but at the same time, I don't have the flush draw anymore. But I could maybe bluff a missed flush draw. Maybe.
Yeah, no, that does make sense.
But my queen eight does have showdown value.
Yeah, it does have showdown value. You could also bluff you could send me a bluff with a straight draw. I think betting here is good. It just folds out a lot of king X, ace X that don't have anything to do in the pot.
Yeah.
So here I check, and then here I think yeah, like queen eight is also betting at a pretty high frequency, and the reason is like if you look at the highest frequency bet here, it's 67, right? Like the reason is that this bet will fold some better hands for
Wow.
sure. King six, king seven, king eight cannot continue. Like all these kings cannot continue. All these aces cannot continue unless you have some sort of pair or some sort of gutter. These aces cannot continue. You just get a lot of useful folds. So this is a spot where
So if you're trying to get fold equity and fold up better hands, do you bluff more, or sorry, do you bet more or do you bet less?
so it's not so much about fold equity as it is about like maximizing EV here. What I would encourage you to do is to think about what kinds of value hands you can have here and tailor your sizing accordingly. General heuristics are that when you encounter things like three straight, or sorry, not three straight, but yeah, like very connected or three flush boards, like we said, monotone. But if a third flush card comes on the turn, generally speaking, like you're gonna have to tamp down sizing, right? Like if a board is very connected, such that there can be like tons of straights possible, like not just one, not just like 8-7-4 where there's only 6-5 for a straight, but like 8-7-6 where there's now like 6-5 or sorry 5-4, there's 9-5, there's 10-9, all those straights are possible. Like then you sort of tamp down the sizing on those types of boards. Whereas like things that boards where there's some draws but like none of them have really completed yet, like this. Here you can have a 75% sizing, right? Like you can say, oh, I could have a 10 here and I can be betting for value. I cannot really have a 9 because otherwise, like a lot of 9s bet the flop. But I could, presumably have a 10. I could have checked like 10-5 suited, 10-3 suited on the flop, and now be value betting them. That is very possible. So just think about what your value wants to do, and then just be like, okay, now I'm going to balance these with bluffs for the same sizing. Okay. Okay, so you bet, or sorry, you check. This river is actually a pretty neutral river. The ace, it's not so much good for you.
I thought it was the
As it is for me.
aggressor, so should favor me, right?
Yeah, so you have all the big aces. I don't have any of the big aces, but I do still have, like the equal proportion of aces in my range as you do, even after the flop and turn check. I guess technically speaking, I have fewer aces than you now because all my calls are going to be in the ace 3, ace 9 region that probably would have bet the turn maybe. Whereas like your ace king, ace queen, ace jack hands like a turn check.
Yep.
I think like your big ace is like turn check. Okay, so here I'm like checking again, and then you're betting. right? Of course, you're gonna be betting anyways. What were your thoughts
Well-
on bluffing this river?
I thought this ace like favored my hand a lot. And I missed the gutter, or yeah, I missed the gut shot. I missed the straight draw. So
Does your hand have any showdown value?
I thought no.
Yeah, it's
So
correct.
that's why
Right. So what does solver do here? It says kings have showdown value, but queens essentially no showdown value, right? So kings, it's checking and it's saying, oh, I can win at showdown sometimes. Queen, it's saying like, okay, you know, like one, I cannot win at showdown with queen. And two, like I don't get called often enough with queen for these not to be better than like 0 EV bluffs, right? So you can see like these are betting pretty frequently.
it's actually correct. That's
Yeah,
very
absolutely.
surprised is correct.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like, queens are essentially like non-showdown value on this board anymore. The important thing to know is that this is the ace of clubs, brings the flush card on board.
Yeah.
Theoretically, if you're not betting all of your flush draws on the turn, then you can actually have some flushes on the river. And so that's also part of your value range, right? Like not just the ace X, but also your flushes. Guarantee you, if this is offsuit ace, your queens are checking more.
Wow.
And that's because now you cannot represent flushes, right? Like that's a hand class that is
Right.
not part of value anymore.
At the same time, they can have flushes.
Right. So here you see what happened, what we did. We turned the ace into the ace of hearts, and all of a sudden your queen eight turned into like a high frequency check.
Wow.
Right. And now it's saying queen eight is showdown value, queen jack is showdown value. Like all these kings, like it was some of these kings were actually doing a little bit of bet, but now these are essentially doing none.
Oh.
So that's an interesting thing to know is the river breaking out makes a slight difference in threshold. It's not much, but you just have to know that like if you have a hand where you're like borderline, is this showdown value? Is this like that? Like if you can't represent as much value on the river, then you have to check slightly more. Right?